Israel launches the biggest military attack on Iran in history. But why didn't Netanyahu order the IDF to hit Iran's nuclear and oil sites or decapitate the regime? What is the Trump team's biggest fear in the final hours before Election Day? And are Republicans poised to win back control of the Senate but lose control of the House? An exclusive conversation with Trump's chief pollster and his former domestic policy transition advisor. All this and more tonight on the Rosenberg Report. We are in the final hours of the most dramatic, historic, and high-stakes presidential campaign in the modern history of the United States. I am 57. I've never witnessed anything like this. I've never read or studied anything about like this. And it is a dead heat, but the momentum seems to be shifting from Harris, Kamala Harris, the vice president, who was ahead by several points just a month ago. Things seem to be shifting, but we're in the final hours. Every vote counts, and evangelical turnout is going to be critical. We're going to talk to two key players, and you're going to get the inside scoop from Donald Trump's own pollster, John McLaughlin, who was his pollster in 2016, in 2020, and today. You're also going to hear from former ambassador, former Secretary of State of Ohio, Ken Blackwell. He was Trump's domestic policy advisor during the transition in 2016 when Donald Trump shocked everyone and beat Hillary Clinton in that campaign. We're going to talk to both of them about what are the numbers, and is the House and Senate at risk? Can Republicans pick up the Senate, but are they in danger of losing the House? Very, very interesting conversations in just a moment. But the big story in Israel remains the fact that Israel just attacked Iran in such a big attack, a dramatic attack, but was it big enough? And I want to talk about that first. Now, let's be crystal clear. It is true that Israel's attack on Iranian military sites on Saturday morning was historic and unprecedented. Never in the history of the Iranian regime, certainly not since the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, has any foreign power, much less Israel, hit Iran so hard militarily. Using more than 100 fighter jets, refueling planes, and spy planes, the IDF attacked about 20 Iranian sites. Early reports suggest that Israel destroyed Iran's entire air defense system, including key early warning radar stations, and the Russian-built and installed S-300 anti-aircraft missile batteries that protect Tehran, the capital of Iran, and Iran's other key sites, including nuclear sites. These are not small developments. They are significant and important. But what Israel did on Saturday was not nearly enough. Not after so many Israelis have been killed by the Iranian regime and its terror proxies. Not after so many Israelis, Americans, and other nationalities have been taken hostage and held in Gaza for more than a year. Not after all the damage that has been done to Israeli cities, towns, farms, and our economy by Iran and its terrorist allies. And certainly not after Iran and its terror proxies just tried to assassinate Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at his home in Caesarea on the coast of the Mediterranean on October 19th. It's time for Israel to utterly destroy Iran's nuclear facilities and annihilate the regime's capacity to build and deploy nuclear warheads and the ballistic missiles capable of reaching Israel, our Sunni Arab allies, Europe, or the United States. It's also time to destroy Iran's oil refinery facilities and other oil-producing infrastructure to deny the regime the capability of earning tens of billions of dollars in the petroleum markets that they can use to fund their evil plans. Indeed, it's time to topple the Iranian regime once and for all. Now, I realize that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant are under severe pressure from President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris not to take strong and decisive action against the Iranian regime. The good news is that Netanyahu has done more than any Israeli leader in my memory to stand up against American pressure to surrender in Gaza and to surrender in Lebanon and to not deal with Iran seriously. And he absolutely deserves credit for this, far more credit than his critics will ever give him. But I want to be clear, Netanyahu is now facing the greatest test in Israel's darkest hour. If Netanyahu does not take stronger action soon, even against the wishes of the Biden-Harris administration, Iran will move quickly to build its nuclear arsenal. And then what happens? Well, 10 million Israelis, myself and my family included, will be facing the existential threat of a second Holocaust. Now, I'm praying for Netanyahu and Gallant and their top advisors to have the wisdom, courage, and stamina to see this war through to its obvious and ultimate conclusion. And I hope that those of you who are praying for the peace of Jerusalem, according to Psalm 122, will join me. Look, the Bible says to us in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 that there is a time for peace and a time for war. Let me be clear, I don't want war. No one does. But war has come, and Israel must win it. We don't have the manpower or the economic depth to let this war drag on for years to come. Yes, God is our shepherd. Yes, God is the ultimate protector of Israel. And for this, I am deeply grateful, and I know you are as well. Yes, God could supernaturally destroy the Iranian regime, and Bible prophecies say that someday He will. But we're not sure we're in that moment. So until then, we must wisely and prayerfully make decisions that bring this war to a decisive end quickly, seeking His guidance and grace every step of the way. Now, as I see it, the best way to bring about true peace for Israel and its neighbors, indeed the best way to achieve total victory, Netanyahu's stated objective, is to totally destroy the Iranian regime and their capacity to build and launch nuclear weapons. We need to do it now, before it's too late, and nothing less will do. Even if Israel has to go it alone, may God have mercy on us all. Coming up next on the Rosenberg Report, is it true that momentum is shifting, that Kamala Harris is losing ground in the polls and Trump is gaining? If so, what is the Trump campaign team's biggest fear in the closing hours of this campaign? My conversation with President Trump's chief pollster is up next when the Rosenberg Report continues on TBN right after the break. But first, I want to say that in Israel's darkest hour, a lot of people are asking me, how can we help? How can we support Israel in its time of greatest need and be part of that biblical mandate found in Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, where God is speaking of blessing those who bless the people of Israel, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Well, a great way to do it is to partner with our sponsor of today's edition of the Rosenberg Report, ARTSA. Go to artsabox.com. Use the discount promo code RR15, Rosenberg Report 15, to get a 15% discount off the price of your ARTSA box. They are literally a taste of the Holy Land, and they come directly to your home in a beautiful box that contains potpourri, a range of all kinds of products made in Israel by all kinds of Israeli artisans, entrepreneurs, and small business owners. You're going to love them for yourself, for your family, and they make great gifts as well. Check it out. Go to artsabox.com, use the discount code RR15, Rosenberg Report 15, and I have no doubt that you'll love these boxes, these ARTSA boxes, as much as Lynn and I do. Joining me now is former President Donald Trump's actual pollster, John McLaughlin. He and I have known each other for 30 years. We worked on some campaigns that didn't go well, but McLaughlin has been an incredible advisor and pollster for the former president, and he could be the next president. John, welcome. Thank you for making time in these final days, final hours of this, incredible presidential campaign. 2 assassination attempts that Trump, by God's grace, survived. The withdrawal of President Biden from the race. I mean, this is, if I'd written a political thriller like this, I don't think anyone would have believed it or bought it, but you're living it right at the epicenter of the Trump team. What is your sense of, is it true, is it a fair assessment that the momentum has shifted from Harris maybe 3-4 weeks ago to Trump? Is that true?
That's true. And what's different about having worked for President Trump in 2016, having worked for President Trump in 2020, this race is very different in that at this point in time, we are tied in the national polls. In 2016, we were trailing Hillary Clinton in the national polls by 5 or 6 points. We were losing every battleground state. The media was proclaiming a Hillary lock up until on election day, 538, 71% chance of Hillary winning. The exit polls come out. Frank Luntz, the media is saying she won. And we're like, no, count the votes. And by the grace of God, we won by 78,000 votes out of 139 million across 3 states, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And then in 2020, they had us losing by 10 points. And it was the Biden blue wave. And we said, no, it's going to be another electoral college close race. And out of 160 million votes, we just barely lost by 20,000 in Michigan, 12,000 in Georgia and Arizona. And this is very different because right now the national polls have us tied, not behind by 10 points. They have us winning slightly every battleground state from 1 to 3 points of the 7 key battleground states. And early voting is going very well this week in Nevada, North Carolina. For the first time ever in history, Republicans have outnumbered Democrats in early voting in North Carolina. Georgia, there's record numbers of voters out. Most voters will have voted early by election day. Arizona, Republicans outnumber the Democrats in early voting. And it really, this final weekend, it's coming down to 3 states of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And Republicans are running ahead of their past absentee turnout. And there may be some surprises because we might just win Minnesota, New Mexico, or President Trump's making a last weekend stop into Virginia to hold a rally.
Amazing.
So, so right now it's really close. And we've got a lot of people praying for good outcomes because it's really important to Israel. It's really important to the world. It's not just Americans. We want to end. When I was at the rally for President Trump in Madison Square Garden, the mother of all Trump rallies that was held, and there was a lot of good people there, good patriotic people. Don't believe the left-wing media. They're totally deranged, calling us fascists and Nazis. It's like bizarre.
It's quite a closing argument for Harris. It suggests that she's scared and her team is scared because Trump looks happy. He seems, I mean, he's making French fries. He's putting Donald back in McDonald's.
They're still hiding her. They really don't put her out there. She only does softball interviews and then she can't hit. So it's like, but it's also the radicalism. When you look at it, I mean, she's basically, she was the one who told Netanyahu, don't go into Rafah.
Right. She'd read all the maps, right?
Don't attack Iran. I mean, Iran is attacking Israel.
Right.
And she's the one who's promoting, she supported transgender surgeries in the United States of like prisoners and, what they call gender affirming care, which is a euphemism for castration. And it's just bizarre stuff that she's really radical. And, Americans are saying from Donald Trump, they're seeing somebody who's likable, who's confident, who also is patriotic, and the strongest supporter of Israel that we've ever had. I mean, maybe since Truman. And, that I was, when Trump was president, Bibi was prime minister, I was on the receiving end of phone calls from both of them back to back at different times.
Because I should tell the audience that you were also pollster for, 20 some years, maybe more, for then former Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. You brought me into a campaign that didn't go so well back in 2020. I got out of politics and got into journalism and writing books, but you stayed with Netanyahu and have seen him serve as the longest serving prime minister in the history of Israel. So you know these two key figures in history so well.
Yeah. The great thing is pollsters are only as good as the candidates you work for. And I work for the best. So thank God Bibi's the prime minister of Israel today. And he's securing Israel. And we need to get, in my opinion, we need to get Trump elected again because when President Trump was there, He moved the embassy as promised. He's a businessman. He's not a politician.
He dealt so decisively with Iran. The maximum pressure campaign of economic sanctions nearly bankrupted Iran down to $5 billion in foreign currency reserves, tore up the disastrous Iran nuclear deal. All right, but in the final moments,
and the Abraham Accords.
And the Abraham Accords, absolutely. And he's saying that he can make peace with the Saudis. I believe him because I think the Saudis are very close. They want to see this happen. But let me ask you a last question real quickly in the few moments we have here. Are you concerned at all about evangelical turnout? Do you see any drift or any concern about turnout among evangelicals? He hasn't been doing as much effort with evangelicals as maybe in the past, though he just did a big event in Georgia with a number of evangelical leaders. So any concern there?
We're worried about turnout because what it is when you go back to the 2012 election, at this point in time, Mitt Romney was ahead until the final weekend. And then he lost to Barack Obama because he got too comfortable with his lead. We're in that close of a race that if every Trump voter doesn't get out, but also if they don't get their friends and family out, because we do see in the polls, there's a lot, we're running over 70% of the support with evangelical voters. That's strong. But I'll tell you what, there's evangelical voters who may not vote because some of them think Trump's got, he's got it in the bag. He's going to win. Some of them think that, their votes don't really count. Well, in this race, your votes do count. Plus, we've expanded our evangelical support to Latino voters, to African-American voters. Right. And you see that in the polls where the Democrats are freaking out because Donald Trump is getting higher levels of support, historic levels of support from African-Americans, from Hispanic voters, from Jewish voters. He may get more than Eisenhower got. He got 40% in 56. Reagan got 39% among Jewish voters that are a 3-to-1 Democrat group.
We haven't seen that in 40 years. Or 50, right. Maybe.
And President Trump may win the Jewish vote because we're really concerned about, our friends in Israel, and we're really concerned about world security, and anti-Semitism in the United States is on the rise. And Kamala Harris, that's who she hangs with. These people that are, they talk a good game, but let me tell you, the reality of a Harris administration for 4 years would be a disaster for Christians and for Israeli voters. And pro-Israel voters in the United States. So it would be really bad. So we have to win. Evangelical Christians, pro-Israel voters, you have to get your friends and family out to vote. It has to be a big enough vote that they can't say, oh, we found a bunch of votes someplace and we're going to take away Pennsylvania from them. We're going to take away Michigan or something. We have to go out and get our votes out because it has to be bigger than the record 160 million people that voted in 2020.
What's the line that some Republicans are using? It's got to be too big to rig.
Right. And that counts. That matters. Not just you voting, but getting your friends and family to vote. And so I'm telling my friends, pray every day and get out to vote and get your friends and family out to vote. And that's, and God will hopefully help those who are helping themselves right now. So we'll get Donald Trump elected.
Thank you, John. Thank you for making time for this. I know you're working too hard because you haven't gotten a haircut for a while, so make sure you go do that before Election Day. And I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate your love for America. God bless you, and thank you for this analysis so close to the election. God bless you. Joining me now is former U.S. Ambassador Ken Blackwell, who serves on the All Israel News, All Arab News, what we call the Near East Media Board. He's been a friend of mine, 30-some years. We helped Steve Forbes lose a presidential campaign or two back in the day, back in the 90s. But Ken Blackwell, among other things, he was the mayor of Cincinnati. He was the Secretary of State and Treasurer of Ohio. And he was Donald Trump's, then candidate-elect Donald Trump's domestic policy advisor during the transition in 2016. He joins me now. Ken, great to see you. What's your sense of the state of this race at this point? This is one for the ages.
It really is. It's a close race. But in the closing days, the Trump campaign seems to have the momentum. And I think that I just have to pull on two comments from the athletic world. One from Yogi Berra, it ain't over till it's over. Okay. And the other is that you have to run through the tape, so we just can't get comfortable because things are moving in Trump's direction. But the other thing that is important here, Joel, is that for Trump to implement his agenda quickly and effectively, he has to run a trifecta, meaning he has to win the presidency, he has to regain, the Republicans have to regain the majority in the Senate, and they have to keep the majority in the House. As we close this out, I think it looks like the Republicans will regain the control in the Senate, but we have a dogfight in the House.
Let's start with the Senate. Why are you bullish on Republicans taking over the Senate?
Well, the Democrats have had to defend more seats, but I'm feeling really good about pickups, not only in Montana, but also in Ohio. The folks who I work with on this believe that the Republicans will have anywhere from 52 to 54 seats in the Senate.
Wow!
And it looks
that would be
very,
dramatic,
very good. Absolutely. We're gaining ground, and we have a competitive race in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. Arizona is one that we're a little bit concerned about. But overall, there's going to be, I think, a substantial pickup in the Senate, and they'll get control of that chamber.
All right, let's talk about the House. You are close to House Speaker Mike Johnson. You're close to Newt Gingrich, the former Speaker of the House, and you've been involved in all this. What is you're describing a warning sign for Republicans that Speaker Johnson's speakership could be in jeopardy, that the House could flip to the Democrats. Why are you saying that? What's going on?
Well, look, I think it's important to remember we have a majority because in 2022, we ran strong. We picked up seats in 2 blue states, California and New York. That's why, we're not only looking at our strengths, we're looking at how do we keep those seats that we picked up in 2022 in New York and in California. And so that's going to be, headbutting and a real fight to do that. And that's what is disquieting right now. Where we have to defend happens to be in a couple of states where Democrats are strong. But again, I think we're going to finish strong. We can win and keep our majority, but it is a tough fight.
Yeah. All right, back to Donald Trump and the presidential race. 2 quick questions before we close. One, African-American men. There seems to be an effort by the Trump campaign, by himself personally, wants to engage African-American men based on his track record economically and on crime and other issues in his first term. What is your read?
My prediction is that his aggregate take of the Black community will in fact be somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 14%. And that increase will be driven by young Black men between the ages of 25 and 50. And I think that shift on the margin will in fact help him win Wisconsin as well as be competitive and possibly pick up Pennsylvania. I know that's helping him in Georgia, and the total African-American take in Arizona is much smaller, but every vote counts, even in that battleground state.
So, final thought, your assessment of Donald Trump. Yeah, all the polls seem to be showing small but significant shift in momentum in recent weeks from Kamala Harris's high, maybe 4 or 5 weeks after the Democratic convention, where she was getting glowing coverage. And then she started doing media interviews and stuff, and she has sunk significantly from to the point where even Real Clear Politics average now, it's neck and neck, but Trump up by like 0.1 points, given that she was up by 2 just a few weeks ago. Do you believe that momentum shift?
Absolutely. Look, Trump, if you take a look at how he finished against Biden, how he finished against Hillary Clinton, he, in fact, they underpolling, and they did. So the fact that he's this close to Harris would suggest that if what we experienced in 2020 and 2016 happens again, he in fact will beat Harris comfortably. Now, people get mad at me because I give them this projection, but I actually think in the final analysis, if we do what we need to do, if we run through the tape, Trump will get somewhere between 302 and 306 electoral college votes.
Wow. All right, we're gonna follow up with you on that and see what happens. Ken Blackwell, former ambassador, former Secretary of State of Ohio, and a dear friend. Thank you so much for your analysis of this election.
Good to be with you.
God bless.